Okay, looks like we're live. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Just tag everyone here. All right. Welcome, welcome. All righty. So, welcome to today's live. Today's topic is Fat Loss Made Simple, a fat loss masterclass for you so that we're making fat loss feel simple, or at least so you understand it. So, if you've ever felt confused by all of the fat loss or weight loss dieting advice or advice that is out there. There's a lot of information floating around on the internet today. There's a lot of conflicting ideas like low carb, high carb, eating 6 times a day, small meals throughout the day, no snacking, intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day, high protein, low protein, meal replacement shakes. Like, take this drink, right? There is so much noise out there. And like me, some of you have probably tried all sorts of different tactics over the past. I spent probably 20 years being completely confused by this topic. So now that I've figured it out, I am today going to give you some really sound advice and one framework that helps to cut through the noise. So when you really understand this, you can start making very intentional choices that are going to work for you. And you can drop, assuming or blaming something that is outside of your control, like things like genetics or hormones, and you can actually get results a lot easier. Okay. Hey, Margaret, thanks for joining. Jasmine, thanks for joining in. It's good to see you both. Okay, so who am I? I'm Karen. I'm the plant power coach, and I help people lose weight and keep it off forever on a plant-based diet. So by the end of this live today, you'll understand what body fat is, how fat loss actually happens, why it's not a moral issue, it's not a genetic issue, it's not a hormonal issue, and what is really pushing the problem that we're facing in today's modern society. All right, so let's start with looking at what body fat actually is. Body fat is stored energy. Imagine that it's like thousands of like little rechargeable batteries that are in your body storing extra fuel. Our body is smart. It's built for survival. And in times of early human evolution, those who were able to eat more calories than they needed in a calorie surplus, when there was food around, they were able to store excess calories in the form of body fat, and that helped them to survive through periods of food shortage. So the ability to store body fat is actually a survival tool. It doesn't make you bad or lazy or anything like that if you've stored extra body fat. It just makes you human. And we all have this ability to be able to store excess calories as fuel. And what it means is that when we go into this in the future, when we've destroyed our planet and we can't produce any more food, guess what? You're going to have enough energy on your body to be able to survive longer than some other people. So fat gain happens when we are consistently in a calorie surplus. Now, what do I mean by that? Our body requires energy on a daily basis in the form of calories. Think about food going into your body like putting wood onto a fire. Your fire will not burn if you don't put any fuel onto it. Same with your body. Your body will not operate if you don't put food into it. So calories are just a form of energy that is required by our body. And our body will naturally burn a certain amount of calories every single day. And that number is going to vary between people. It depends on all sorts of factors, like things like your weight, your height, your age, the amount of lean tissue that you have, how much you move your body. And so between people that can vary. Plus, for us as individuals, it can also vary on a day-to-day basis, depending, on how much we are moving our body, how much food we are eating. So our body needs energy in order to be able to power the energy out. And if you're consistently putting more energy in on a day-to-day basis over a long period of time, well, then that excess energy is going to be stored as body fat. This is called thermogenesis. The number one law of thermogenesis is that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It operates in a very closed loop. It's continuous. It doesn't start. It doesn't stop. That energy must go somewhere. So if the energy that you're putting into your body is too much for the body to be able to use on that day, well, the excess has got to go somewhere. So it's then converted into body fat, and it's stored in these little compact fat cells on your body for use at a future date when energy might be short, when you might be in a calorie deficit, or when you might be sick and on the couch for 3 weeks with the flu, like I was last year. Or the year before, actually, year before. So fat loss, as I said, happens when your body consistently uses more energy than you are putting in on a daily basis. And that is really it. That's energy balance. So more in than out over time equals stored energy in the form of fat. But more out than in, if you're in a slight calorie deficit consistently over a long period of time, your body is then forced to tap into those energy, those fat stores, and uses that fat for fuel, right? If you are putting in the same amount of energy, roughly, that your body burns on a daily basis, well, guess what? Your body weight will stay fairly stable. Think of it like this way. Losing fat is like you've gone to the grocery store and you have think about remember COVID when everything was closing down. Hi Danielle. Hi Heidi. Good to see you guys. Think about it like this. Remember when COVID was closing down the world and everybody started to freak out and went to go buy all their toilet paper? And you walked into the supermarket, the shelves are bare, but I'm sure people's homes were stocked to the gills. So the bathroom's full of toilet paper. The kitchen, the pantry, the fridge, the freezer, probably full of food, right? And then over time, as you go to make food or you go to the bathroom, whatever it might be, you're using those stores. You're using the stored food up. And over time, your stockpile depletes. So this is basically what happens when we are in an energy deficit. So at some point, we have stocked the fridge, we've stocked the pantry, we've stocked the bathroom full of toilet paper, right? So that's what the body fat is on our body. Over time, we've added more supplies to our body. But then if we want to lose that, we have to then deplete that over time, empty the cupboards, empty the fridge, empty the pantry, or empty the bathroom, and let that store deplete down. Right? This is physiology. It's not opinion. This is how the body loses fat. We are putting ourselves into that slight calorie deficit so soon we have no reserve left. Well, not no reserve. We're always going to have some fat on our body. You know what I mean. But until our reserves, our excess is down to where we want it to be. And it's not magic. It is science. Also notice how there is zero morality here. It's not bad. Your body is not bad. It's just responsive. If there is more fat on your body, it simply means over time, you've been in a calorie surplus. It can be a small calorie surplus if you're putting on weight ever so gradually and you don't notice it. That can be a very small calorie surplus over time. If you've put on a lot of weight suddenly, well, you've been in a big calorie surplus. So what we want to do here is we just want to remove any shame or guilt that we might feel so that we can focus on skills and habits instead. So let's look at diets and why diets either seem to work or don't work. So any diet that somebody loses weight on does so because they have been able to create this calorie deficit, period. Right? Whether they've done a low carb, keto style, carnivore style, whether they've done low fat, like whole food, plant-based, whether they've done intermittent fasting, whether they've done Weight Watchers, whether they've done Noom, whether they've done the cabbage soup diet, right? Whatever, I guess, method they've used, it has helped them get into a calorie deficit in order to lose that weight. Okay, that's the only thing that is required. So there was a study done, a metabolic ward research study that showed when calories are matched, swapping carbs and fat. So this is looking at a low-fat diet and a low-fat, high-carb and high-carb, low-fat. So keto style versus whole food plant-based style. In this study, when calories were matched, over time, the fat loss was exactly the same. So swapping carbs versus fat doesn't actually give a magic fat loss advantage. The driver here was the energy deficit. And the thing is, if we want to lose fat for the long term and keep it off, the most important thing is adherence long term and appetite management. These two things matter most of all. So if we're going to get ourselves into a calorie deficit, whatever we do, we want to make sure that we can adhere to it for the long term, forever, and that it helps us regulate our hunger, our appetite. Because some diets out there are going to increase your cravings because they're not meeting your nutritional needs. And some diets are just not healthy. They are going to lead you to feeling terrible. And so if something is not sustainable, if it has a lot of high cravings and it makes you feel terrible, it makes you sick, then they are not sustainable. They cannot be sustained for a long period of time. So I guess the key takeaway here is that no matter what approach we're choosing, we want to choose an approach that makes eating the right amount of food for our body feel easy and satisfying so that we can adhere to it long term. Something that we can make a lifestyle out of. Also, losing fat doesn't require absolute perfection to a set of rules. So if we look at the only thing that's required is to achieve a calorie deficit, well, then we can start to throw away all these perfection rules because they really don't matter. All that is required is that you're able to get into a calorie deficit from where you are right now and consistently stay in that calorie deficit over a period of time. Danielle, yeah, okay, yeah, probably eating over 3,000 calories easily with all the fast food I was eating. Yeah. Just about to talk about that, actually, our food environment. So what has created, like, we're struggling with weight so much more in today's society than we as human beings ever have. So why is that? Well, what studies have actually shown us is that the main driver here is our modern food environment. With the creation of processed foods, ultra processed foods in particular, they're engineered for things like speed and shelf life, as well as irresistibility. Scientists and lab coats have spent a lot of time and a lot of money engineering foods so that they hit that bliss point that light up your pleasure centers and keep you hooked and addicted. And there have been studies, inpatient crossover trial studies, looking at people's intake of calories when they're eating UPFs. And on average, what they saw is that people are eating 500 plus calories per day more when they're eating ultra processed foods, even when even when meals are matched for things like macros and sugar and sodium and fiber and calories. So it's the processing itself that drives the overconsumption of calories. And when we concentrate calories, they become far more addictive to our brain. They take up far less space in our body. And so we just eat more. And what we've seen is, with this changing food environment, the calories that are actually available per person have risen substantially over the last 50 years, which tracks with high intake and weight gain. We've also seen, with this changing food environment, things like portion sizes getting bigger. And this reliably makes us eat more as well. There's a great book called Mindless Eating by Brian Wansink, and he was a food researcher in a way that he worked with food industries, restaurant industries, food marketers, in order to discover how they could get people to eat more, spend more money with them. So it's a very eye-opening book. I highly recommend that you read it. And there's a couple of really great studies in that book that he shares, and one was called the Bottomless Soup Story. This is where they had this restaurant environment, and they would invite people in, and they would set it up with different themes, and they were looking at people's buying decisions and eating behaviors. And in this one study, they were serving people soup, and half of the room had normal soup bowls. They got a normal amount of soup in their bowl, and then the other half, they had these bottomless bowls. So they weren't aware of it, but the bowls were being refilled with soup from the bottom. So they'd be eating away, and the bowl would just keep getting refilled and refilled and refilled. And what they found is that people ate 73% more soup than the other people without even noticing. So this sort of partly goes to prove that we rely on visual cues, not fullness signals in our body when we decide to stop. This is where, our portion sizes have really tricked our eating behaviors and eating more as well. And there was another study that he told us about in the book. It was a 5-day-old popcorn study, and moviegoers were given free buckets of stale 5-day-old popcorn. And even though it tasted terrible, people ate 53% more when given the larger buckets versus the smaller buckets. So it's not about how the food tastes, whether they are hungry, whether they're satisfied, whether they even want the food. It's about the environment. Having more food in front of you means you will eat more. And this overpowers our logic. Now, energy density, calories per gram or per pound matter. Lower density water and fiber rich foods like vegetables, fruit, potatoes, legumes allow you to eat more volume of food, but for far fewer calories. Water has no calories. Fiber has very little calories. Fiber can actually trap around 10% of calories and take it straight out your body too. And this eating foods that are naturally high in fiber and water and low in fat allow you to fill your body naturally and help you feel full while naturally being able to get into a calorie deficit. This is why whole food plant-based works so well. Now, just zooming out a bit, global research calls our current environment, our current food environment, obesogenic. Basically, it's a system where the passive overconsumption of calories is the predictable outcome of the modern food supply, marketing, and portion sizes. It's not personal failure. It's a system that has been set up to make us fail and make them rich. Food, if food is everywhere and it's engineered to be irresistible and served in these oversized portions, then of course it's going to be easy to eat past your needs. It's not a case of willpower. It's that the environment itself is powerful. Danielle, I'm going to debunk your little myth here. So basically just count calories to the calories we burn off. No, not necessarily. All right. So keep watching. So I'm going to debunk a few common myths about fat loss here, or fat gain, fat loss. And counting calories is one of them. That's at the end. Hold tight for that. So number one, carbs make you fat. Now, you guys in the plant-based world, you're pretty tuned into nutrition. I'm sure you're aware by now that carbohydrates do not make us fat, not inherently, let's just say. So carbohydrates are our body's preferred form of fuel. When we eat carbohydrates, they're broken down into glucose in digestion, which your cells, every cell in your body, then uses for energy. It's either that or it's stored as glycogen in your liver and muscle cells. The process of converting carbohydrates into fat is called de novo lipogenesis, DNL. In humans, DNL is highly inefficient under normal conditions. It wastes around 30% of the energy to convert glycogen into body fat. So if you've got 100 calories of carbohydrate that the body is then converting into body fat, it's going to burn 30 of those calories just in the conversion process, transferring that glycogen into a different type of fuel, i.e. fat, because they're not the same thing. It's like trying to convert petrol into oil or water into wine. It's going to need a lot of energy in order to convert that fuel into something different. And it's very inefficient for the body. The body actually doesn't really like doing it. And studies show that it only becomes significant when things like your glycogen stores in your muscle and liver are completely maxed out, and you are consuming huge, I can't remember the exact amount extra. There was a study, I think it was like 3,000 calories. I'm not going to give you the numbers here because I can't quite remember the numbers, but you have to eat huge amounts of carbohydrates in surplus in the form of refined sugars, and day after day after day for the body to be then storing that as body fat. And even then, most of the excess carbohydrate that you consume, your body would rather burn off as heat, i.e. increased thermogenesis, rather than storing them as body fat, because that process is so wasteful. So there have been some controlled studies that looked at humans in humans that showed that DNL contributes minimally to fat gain unless the carbohydrates are chronically overfed in extreme amounts. Now, what actually happens in real life? People gain fat from high-calorie diets that combine refined carbs and fats. So think about, donuts, cookies, cakes, fries, pastries. It's the fat in the food that is far more efficiently stored by the body than carbohydrates. So storing dietary fat only wastes about 3% of the energy. So if you've got 100 calories of dietary fat that the body wants to store, well, it's only going to take 3 calories to convert that fat into fat. It's a very efficient process. And as a human being, right, we are programmed to take the path of least resistance, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. So your body wants to take the path of least resistance. If you're in a calorie surplus, it wants to store the fat because it's a way more efficient process. Okay, does that make sense? So then let's look at the second myth that's out there. It's insulin. Insulin is driving fat storage, and it's low carb all the way because then we can keep our insulin low. No. Insulin is a hormone that is made by our pancreas. It is normal for us to produce insulin when we've eaten food. Its main role is to escort nutrients into cells so your body can use them. It moves glucose, which are your carbs broken down into glucose in digestion. It moves the glucose into muscle and liver cells to be stored as glycogen for energy. It helps to move amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. We eat food, the digestion breaks apart all the amino acids. Insulin then helps to move the amino acids into other parts of the body, wherever they're needed for repair and growth. And then, yes, it also helps to get fat into fat cells as well. But that's not its primary job. Think about, I like to think about insulin like it's your Uber driver. And so when we eat, we've got food that comes into the bloodstream from the digestive system. And it's like, holiday makers coming home from a holiday, and they're at the airport, and the Uber there turns up to take the travelers home to where they belong. If the Uber driver doesn't come, the holiday makers are stranded there at the airport, right? So it's the same. Like we've got, the airport is the stomach, and we've got nutrients that are just coming out of the stomach or out of the digestive system into the bloodstream going, hey, I need an Uber, I need to get home, please. And the insulin's like the Uber driver, right, here we are, get in, let's take you home. All right. So it's normal for us to produce insulin after eating. And the low carb myth is that insulin makes us fat, so we want to cut out the carbs and keep our insulin low to lose weight. But studies, again, show that when you match calories between the low carb and the high carb diets, the fat loss is exactly the same. This is something that Kevin Hall studied, and he showed that people lost similar amounts of body fat on the low carb versus the low fat diets, as long as those calories were exactly the same. He also did another study. I can't remember if I'm actually going to talk about this in here, but I'm going to put it in here. There was another study that he did that was different. Where they controlled the calories going in, the fat loss was the same. But he also tested both of those diets, the low fat, high carb, and the high carb, low fat, high carb, and the low carb, high fat. He put those two diets back to back against each other as well. And he switched people between the two diets to look at fat loss. But in this other study, what he didn't do was control the calories. He just told people to eat as much as they wanted to, as much as helped them feel satisfied. And guess who lost the most amount of body fat? Well, the keto style, high fat, low carb, they lost more weight on the scale. But because they were losing glucose, because they weren't replenishing their glucose stores, they also lost a lot of water and they lost lean muscle mass. They lost negligible body fat, barely any. In the high carb, low fat diet, they lost on average 1 pound of body fat per week. They lost because they were replenishing their glucose stores. They kept their water weight high. They lost very little muscle. And what they did lose on the scale, even though the scale number was less, it was body fat. Very significant. Okay. So this is why also, again, whole food plant-based eating this way can help you lose body fat. The people eating the low fat, high carb diet ate on average 550 to 700 calories less per day naturally, because they were eating very calorie dilute foods, whereas the high fat, low carb camp were eating very calorie dense food. So even though the volume of food probably stayed the same, the calories within each camp varied significantly. Okay, so I just wanted to put that one out there. So fat loss is driven by overall calorie intake, being in a deficit. It's not driven by insulin levels at all. So we can take this idea away that we need to stop having these insulin spikes. Insulin spikes after a meal are normal. Even, for somebody who's not diabetic. Obviously, if you are diabetic, that's something that needs to be controlled. But obviously, there are ways that we can do that still help you achieve fat loss. Just by tailoring just the types of foods without you needing to fear those ups and downs. Insulin helps nutrients to get stored or used, and then your insulin levels will come back down. Now, fat burning isn't switched off by insulin forever. It just pauses until your body processes that meal. But what's really driving that fat gain today? It's not the insulin response from the potatoes or the oats. It's the constant barrage of calorie-dense foods being in a calorie surplus. Okay. All right. Myth number 3, my metabolism is broken, so nothing works. So what is metabolism? Metabolism is all of the energy that your body burns to keep you alive and moving, right? Keep you moving throughout the day. It's made up of your BMR, your base metabolic rate, which is around about 60% of your daily burn. This is the energy required when you're asleep at night. It's the energy that is required, say, if you are on the couch and you have the flu. It's the energy required if you are in a coma, right? It's your body keeping itself alive, heart beating, lungs breathing, brain working, organs running, all of that sort of stuff in the background. Then we have our NEAT, N-E-A-T, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is our non-exercise movement. So just moving, talking with your hands, waving your hands, blinking your eyelids, talking, like the movement required for that, fidgeting through the day. It also includes walking. When you're up in your kitchen and you're making dinner, it's all the movement there. So that's 25%-ish of your energy output per day. It's quite a significant amount. Then we have the thermic effect of food, TEF, and this is the energy that your body requires, that it takes to digest and process all of our food. That takes about 10%. And then we've got a measly little 5% at the end for exercise, right? So when people say that, oh, I want to lose weight, I need to increase my exercise, it's like you're playing with 5% here. And the energy that you might burn in an exercise session might be 200 calories or so. It's not that much. And we can effortlessly eat that back. Effortlessly. So we have far more control over the energy that we put into our body. And this is where we want to put our focus. I'm not saying don't exercise. Exercise is amazing. It's great for your health. It will help strengthen your muscles and keep your muscles strong while you're losing weight. Walking is great, but that comes underneath. All right. We want to make sure that we are doing exercise, but I do not want you to use that as your number one tactic for losing weight. It comes down to what we are choosing to put into our body. So what people mean when they often say my metabolism is broken is that, oh, I'm not losing weight at the pace that I expected. It's hard. So hang on. So what metabolism actually is, we've covered that. The next part I want to look at is adaptive thermogenesis. So this is how our body adapts as we lose weight. So when you lose weight, your body burns fewer calories. A smaller body requires less energy in to maintain it. Think about the petrol that like an MX-5, a tiny little car, uses versus something like a Mack truck or a Hummer, or something massive that's like a gas guzzler, right? So a smaller vehicle requires less amount of energy. So as you lose weight, if you are getting to a point where your body is stalling, it's likely that you're now in energy maintenance. You are in energy balance. And if you want to keep losing, you've got to do some refinement to get your body back into a deficit. Hormonal changes can make your body a little more or less energy efficient. Things like leptin, thyroid, changes at menopause. But it's minimal. It is minimal. But again, what now needs to happen if your body is burning less energy on a day-to-day basis? In order to lose the fat, you need to lower your energy intake. Things like muscle loss, when you lose body fat or as we age, and particularly for us women post-menopause, if we're not strength training, we will lose muscle mass. And that has an impact on our base metabolic rate. We will just naturally burn less energy at rest. So it's really important that we keep that muscle mass. We keep strength training in order to keep that base metabolic rate firing. Okay. Now this is all called adaptive thermogenesis. But research shows that the drop is modest. It's usually around 5 to 15% fewer calories than predicted after significant weight loss or with hormonal changes. And that can slow fat loss, but it doesn't break your metabolism. It just means that little 5 to 15% might be the difference between you being in a calorie deficit and not. So, for example, if you just throwing out numbers here, these are not related to anybody or anything, but just for example, if you burned around 2,000 calories per day prior when you had some weight to lose, and maybe you were eating around 1,800, that allowed you to get into a deficit, but you get to a particular goal and now your energy output is about 1,800 calories, then your weight would stop moving because now you're in that energy balance. Your metabolism hasn't died. It hasn't broken. It's still burning. It's just at a little less than it was before. So fat loss will still happen with that consistent calorie deficit. So as I said, what does support your metabolism? Muscle mass. So muscle tissue is way more metabolically active than fat. It requires calories to maintain it. Fat doesn't. So resistance training, strength training, really pushing your muscles hard helps to preserve muscle mass during weight loss and during later in life hormonal changes as well, which will help your energy output remain higher. Movement, just that non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that walking, moving your body just generally more during the day, stand-up desk, This is why I like to do my live standing up, so I can move my body a bit more. This sort of movement often drops without people realizing it as we get older. So you want to make sure that you're consciously keeping active in your day-to-day life to offset this. Sleep. Poor sleep plays havoc with some of your hormones, your hunger hormone, your satiation hormones, your cortisol. All right. So when we have a poor night's sleep, research shows that we can be eating 200 to 300 calories more per day. It suppresses our fullness hormones and it significantly increases our hunger hormones. Hunger hormones go up, I think, by about 28%, and our fullness hormones come down by about 18%. So leading to us naturally eating more calories. Also, cortisol can increase, and guess what? That means we're have less ability to be able to handle our emotions. And when we're not able to handle our emotions, we're getting more stressed. We become more reactive. And what happens when we're reactive? We put more food into our gob. We make poorer choices, and we also can lead to like emotional suppression with food. Food quality. This is another thing that affects your metabolism. So whole high fiber foods have a higher thermic effect, as in that digestive 10%. And foods that are protein and fiber rich, i.e. legumes and beans, have burn more calories during that digestive process than the ultra processed ones. Also, when we're eating high fiber, we are we're keeping our gut healthy, and we're eating those healthy gut microbes are producing short chain fatty acids, which can also help to increase your metabolism. Let's see, we've got some questions here. I've been stagnant, Danielle. I've been stagnant for the past 2 to 3 weeks after losing 30 pounds, but I do not at work now include lifting patients. I think you might have missed a word there, Danielle. Sorry, I'm just trying to interpret that. I do not at work now, including lifting patients. Oh, do you mean you do not work out? Work out now, including lifting. Yeah, so if, okay, so a stall period is actually not 2 to 3 weeks. It's more like 5 to 6 weeks. So if your weight hasn't really moved in 5 to 6 weeks, it really is your body just saying, hey, I'm waiting for you to make the next changes. And Lisa here, finding that my heart rate is staying low while I'm exercising now. It's walking after I've lost the weight. So that, yeah, is that normal? What can I do about that? Should I be concerned? Your heart rate is staying low while you're exercising. That's because you're getting fitter, right? When we are not so fit, any sort of movement is going to stress that heart, somewhat. It's going to make the blood pressure increase and make that heart rate increase. But the fitter you get, the faster you can go, the more you can do, and your heart rate won't be so stressed. What target in grams should we aim for in fiber? If you are eating a whole foods diet, then you are going to easily surpass the recommended amounts. Most dietary guidelines have the recommended amounts at about 25 grams per day. But when you're eating a whole foods plant-based diet, you are eating a lot of fiber. What you'll find is you might be eating anywhere from about 45, 50, 60, 70 grams of fiber, as some people even eat more. It depends on how much food you are actually eating. So how much should you aim for? I don't know, just as much as possible. I like to look at my food and say, does it have fiber, and make decisions based on that. And I always want to try and go for the options that have the fiber, i.e., am I eating a whole food? That's sort of the decisions that I make without getting obsessed about counting anything. Now, Danielle, we're getting to your question now. Do I need to count every calorie? All right, so calorie awareness can be helpful. So things like logging and tracking your food can give you a baseline awareness of how much energy you're actually taking in. Especially in those early on phases, it can help people. And, because portion sizes are often larger than we think, healthy foods that are very calorie dense, like nuts and seeds and avocados. I'm not going to throw oil into a health category, but oils, these can pack in a lot of calories into a meal without much volume. Okay, so for some people it can be empowering to really get that awareness, and it can give you some help with how to structure your plate and give you a bit of clarity. But the downside of calorie counting is that it's not sustainable for most people in the long term. Studies show adherence drops off very quickly. And, I've been through periods of doing this. And even just like in the last couple of weeks, I was just logging all my food into MyFitnessPal just out of awareness, just to see where I was at, where I was finishing up every day. I wasn't trying to hit any numbers. I was paying attention to my body and just literally logging what I was eating because I wanted to know. But I haven't tracked anything in the last week. Right? The adherence to it is very, very low. It can also create a bit of obsession or guilt or some disordered eating tendencies. So here is where we start eating for numbers rather than body cues, rather than listening to your body, honoring your hunger cues, discovering your true fullness amount. It's also easy to get wrong because if you look at things like MyFitnessPal, you can type in apple and there are so many different, calorie ranges for an apple. And, unless you want to be sitting there weighing and measuring everything, all the time to get the exact number of grams, right? That in itself is not sustainable, but it can be very easy to get the numbers wrong. Also, nutrition labels where you might be scanning something, these can be off by around 20%. And oftentimes studies report that people underreport their calorie consumption by up to 30 to 50%, which is huge. Like if you think you're eating 1,200 calories a day, for example, if somebody has told you, if you've had the belief that you have to eat 1,200 calories per day and you're trying to track and log to that, if you're 50% wrong, you could be eating 1,800 calories and wondering why your 1,200 calorie diet is not getting you the results that you want. Calorie counting also doesn't train you to naturally eat in alignment with your hunger and satiation cues, like I said. And also it can lead some people to making, I used to do this back in the day when I was going through a calorie counting period. I would skip the apple and go for the bag of chips. Oh, do I have some calories left? And also what I was doing is logging in my exercise, and they're looking at the amount of calories burned on the equipment that I was using and putting that in there and using that as an excuse to eat more food. I could eat more food. And it wasn't working for me. It didn't work for me. So, we want to, like I say, it can be a tool for awareness, but let's not use it as the main driver. Let's learn how to, tap back into our body's natural hunger and fullness cues and eat the foods that we can eat sustainably long term. So it's a tool, but it's not the only way. Okay, so the way that is mostly, that is recommended by most people, instead of calorie counting, it's to use the calorie density model, which is, as I said, calories per weight of food. So calories per gram or calories per pound. So foods that are water-rich, fiber-rich, these are foods like our vegetables and whole, and naturally low in fat. Vegetables, fruit, potatoes, beans, whole grains, they are naturally low in calorie density, meaning we can eat till our body feels satisfied, and yet it's almost like we effortlessly are able to achieve the right amount of calories that our body needs. We also want to eliminate any of those really high calorie dense foods that are low in water, low in fiber, and or low in high in fat. Okay, and why this works. The human stomach volume is fairly fixed. You can only fit so much food in there. When you fill it with low energy dense foods, you feel physically full on lower calories, less calories. So Dr. Barbara Rolls and her colleagues at Penn State showed that people ate fewer calories naturally when their meals are lower in calorie density, even without even realizing it. Her book is called Volumetrics, I think that's what it's called. Now, eating this way is the foundation of the plant-powered plate. This is in my weight loss guide. I teach you how to build your plate for fat loss. If you don't have a copy of that guide, put a comment below and I'll make sure that I get that guide to you. So what we want to do with our food is we want to increase the amount of low calorie dense foods. So our vegetables and our fruits and our potatoes and our beans. And we want to reduce the portions of very energy dense foods like oils and nuts and cheese and processed foods, dry foods. So visual cue, half your plates, veggies and greens, a quarter starch, a quarter, starch being your potatoes or your whole grains, and then a quarter being your protein-rich legumes. And this creates a natural calorie deficit without really needing to track any numbers, keeping your fats really low. Catherine, yes, I'll get you a copy of that weight loss guide, my friend. Just make sure we're friends on Facebook. If we're not, please send me a message. Otherwise, my message to you is going to get in your spam folder. Susie, how much fat should we have every single day? Well, that depends. There's no hard and fast rule or number with any of this. It's just what are you eating today and how much is going to get you, what is going to be less that'll get you into a calorie deficit, right? This is where trying to adhere to rules doesn't really help. It's about starting with where you are at and making some changes from that point. And so you might be able to gain some awareness of how much, keeping a food diary or something like that to start with will be able to help you understand how much fat you're getting. Don't worry about the fat that's in, the calorie dilute foods. Yes, there will be some fat in that. We want to look at the foods that are high, and it's not really just fat, it's calorie dense foods that don't have fiber, that don't have water or have minimal water, and then foods that are high in fat. That's what increases the calorie density. My weight loss guide also has the calorie, a calorie density scale, quite a comprehensive calorie density scale. So you can see where foods sit on that scale. And all you want to do is go, what does my general diet look like at the moment? How many of the foods that are up here in this calorie dense region am I having? How often am I having them? And okay, so how can I move myself more towards the low end of that scale? There's not a hard and fast rule. It's just about where you are at the moment and what you can do to move yourself down that scale. Myth number 5, fat loss equals suffering. I have to suffer in order to lose weight. I love this one because I used to think that was true as well. Yeah, I used to feel miserable every time I was trying to lose weight. This is what diet culture teaches us. It teaches us that we need to eat less, smaller portions, restrict, and we need to move more, and we just need to push through. We need to go hard, But suffering doesn't work. Willpower is a short-term fuel, and it will only work to get you off the mark and get you making some changes. It's going to burn out. It's going to fizzle out. So we can't rely on willpower. And if you are eating in a way that feels like joyless, or it feels complicated, you're doing something that requires a lot of like strict adherence and no joy, and it's tasteless and it's complicated, you've got to count and weigh and measure everything. If it feels like too much, you are not going to do it. Okay. Also, if you are forced to do something that requires ridiculously low calories or small meals, I'm thinking about one client who came to me and she said prior she'd done, was it OptiFast or something like that, one of those meal replacement shakes. And she'd lost weight doing it for sure, but she was having, I think, one or maybe two of these shakes per day and a tiny little salad. And she said she was starving, absolutely starving. Okay. So we're not programmed to try and get through starvation. Like starvation is a form of torture. Right? People do terrible things to stop themselves from starving. People have been known to eat people to stop from starving. All right. So we do things like this. We're not programmed to starve. And when we are starving, when we are hungry all the time, our hunger signals are actually going to fight back. So our ghrelin increases because our body is trying to get its needs met. It's trying to get its energy needs met. So ghrelin goes up, our hunger hormone and our satiation hormones come down, meaning our body is trying to get us to eat. It's trying to force us to eat. When you are eating something that's very restrictive and not many calories, your energy and your mood will drop as well. It's going to make things like moving your body, sleep, habits, it's going to make everything harder to stick to. And people often fall into cycles of restriction and then built. I was saying this to myself this morning. I kept getting my words muddled. Restriction and then binging because the body is going, you are not feeding me, feed me, feed me, feed me. And eventually we cave, right? And then we feel guilty. And so we go back and we try and restrict again. Okay, this time I'm going to be perfect. And the cycle just goes on and on and on. Hey, I've been there. I've been there. I know what it's like. So research shows that the number one predictor of long-term success is actually the adherence. Being able to stick with the approach, not the extreme or the perfection of that approach. All right. So you want to make sure that what you are doing, you enjoy, that the food tastes great, that it is easy to do. You want something that you can stick with and that you can stick with long term. Think of it, what you do. If you are doing something that you really don't enjoy, it's like you've bought a beautiful pair of shoes that rub your feet terribly, right? You might be able to hobble around for a night on them, but after a while, you're going to kick those damn things off and go, why did I buy them? They're horrible. And you're going to go back to your comfy flats. Hey, I've done this too. The amount of shoes I've bought thinking, oh, that's so gorgeous. I love them. And then they're just so uncomfortable, right? We want to be able to stick to it. Sustainability looks like meals that are filling. They are, they help to activate the stretch in your stomach so that your body gets the hormone signals that say, hey, there's no more room down here. Stop sending us more food. And the hunger hormones, the hunger goes away. So we're activating stretch in the stomach, but foods that also keep your blood glucose levels nice and steady, i.e. they're filled with water and fiber that slow down that digestive release of glucose into the blood. You also want meals that are simple. You don't need complicated recipes, at least not to start with. If you love cooking, if you absolutely love getting in the kitchen and making things really creative, absolutely do it. But if you're just kind of new at this, you want to be doing something that does make it simple for you. Something where you don't have to weigh and measure every single bite. You're not feeling chained to an app. Something that is just having a reliable framework that you can repeat. And as I said, I've got that in my weight loss guide. So make sure you put your hand up for that. And Also, sustainability is meals is a way of eating that you want to be able to adhere to for the rest of your life. And so this is not just about what you do to lose the weight. It's got to be, like I always say, the way you lose the weight is you've got to be prepared to do for the rest of your life. So if you don't want to get rid of certain foods, like for me, I don't not have nuts. I don't not have avocado because I love those foods. But I've been able to achieve my goals with understanding how much of those foods I can have in my diet on a day-to-day basis, while being able to, one, achieve, and two, maintain my body weight. So I know for those foods, they can be very easy calorie traps, and too much will, and it does, because I've done this, don't you worry. You get a little bit lax with the cashew cream and the avocado on toast and things like that. You just get a little bit lax, let some of those habits slide, and yeah, the weight will come back because now I'm in a calorie surplus. But I've learned how much of that I can have on a regular basis and still achieve my goals. So I don't want to get rid of those things just to try and get to a goal, because what's going to happen when I'm there, I'm going to bring those things back because I want to be able to include them in my diet. They're still healthy foods. And so the same with you. If there is something that you don't want to get rid of for the rest of your life, then don't. Just learn how you can still achieve a calorie deficit while eating that food. It might mean you have to eat it less, smaller portions of that food, but bulk it out with some more vegetables or things like that. But it gives you a lot more awareness. So one of my clients, she's my cousin's wife, and I've known her for 30 odd years or so. And she lost 80 pounds when we worked. Well, she lost 80 pounds totally. And, she didn't want to give up meat. That was not going to be her lifestyle. But what we did is we significantly changed the calorie density of her plate. So vegetables increased significantly, and the calorie dense meats and things like that reduced significantly. And she was able to still, enjoy the way she was eating. And she was able to leave the foods in there that she wanted to continue eating for the rest of her life. And now she has so much more awareness of, how to eat healthily with those foods in there. So it doesn't need to be all or nothing. It doesn't need to be a set of rules. It's just, what can I do to lower the calorie density of my plate? And when we eat whole foods, whether you are strictly whole food plant-based, or whether you want a little bit of processed in your food and your diet, a little bit of something else, that can tick all boxes. They are whole foods, whole plant foods are naturally lower in calorie density, leaving you feeling full on fewer calories. They simplify your decisions as well, like rice, potatoes, beans, fruits, veggies. Like, they're so simple and delicious. And when you are able to detox yourself off a lot of those processed, highly addictive, highly palatable foods, then you can actually taste the natural beauty, I guess, the natural goodness, the natural flavors of those foods. Like, I just roasted some potato, not even roasted, air fried some potatoes last night. I just had them with a little bit of tomato sauce. And I had that for dinner with a green smoothie. It was one of my, I call it a CBF meal. It was like a Sunday, and I just couldn't be bothered cooking. So I was like, you know what? Potatoes need to be made. They're getting a few eyes. I need to do something with those. And it's just a green smoothie. That'll do me. And so it was just a really simple meal. And those potatoes just taste delicious, like nothing on them, no oil, just cooked as they are. And just a little bit of tomato sauce that I'm dipping them in. So delicious. Even the taste of steamed cauliflower. Like, I was never much of a cauliflower girl, and certainly didn't really like the taste of steamed vegetables. I mean, I still don't really, but I've really come to like the taste of steamed cauliflower. It's like, who am I even? So when you come off these, ultra processed foods that are designed to keep you addicted, you can actually taste natural foods, and it can help you just simplify your decisions and what you're putting on your plate. All right, so sorry, where am I getting to here? Yes, fat loss equals suffering. Yes, so we're up to number 3 here with the habit piece. So it's not about completely restricting. It's about building new habits, and small repeatable actions are much easier to sustain than big drastic rules. And we will continue to do something if it was one, easy to do, and two, enjoyable. So you don't have to be perfect to get yourself going. You just want to start building new habits that you can stick to. And don't underestimate the power of small steps, because small steps get you into momentum. I like to think of ourselves like big rocks, big boulders, and we just want to, we want to get ourselves rocking to start with, and then we just want to gently push that boulder and just get it moving. Because once you get that boulder moving with, a few tiny habits, well, the more it goes down the hill, the more speed it's going to pick up. So it's about getting yourself into momentum and then about refining that momentum as you go. We don't need to start out with a lot of rules and restrictions and overthinking this thing. Like, what's one small thing I can do today to help lower the calorie density of my plate? I can tell you, for most people, there's probably a couple of things I would suggest. One, way more vegetables. You're just not eating enough vegetables. Two, get rid of the oils. You don't need to cook with oil. So if you're still cooking with oil, let's just take that off your plate. Also with habits, we will continue to do something if it's enjoyable and easy to do, like we stick to it. We are programmed to resist what is hard and painful. We're inherently lazy beings, right? It's not a judgment. It's just, this is one of our natural human survival traits, where we can do things, where we can take the path of least resistance, where we can do things that expend far less energy. Well, our ancestors survived because they were in an environment of food shortage, remember, energy shortage, and they had to find ways to survive by expending less energy. So it's programmed into our basic survival instincts. So just work with that, right? We don't want to do things that are hard and, painful and, require a lot of energy. We want to stop making things harder than they have to be. We are not programmed for hard. We're programmed for comfort and ease. We want to make these new habits that we are developing pleasurable and as easy as possible. And then once we've got that boulder moving, right, then we can start layering the new habits. We start refining and perfecting as we go. But we just got to take it one step at a time in order to get there. And that is far more sustainable. And this is also why my clients get results. We're not starving, we're not obsessing, we're just eating, variety and abundance. We're eating delicious plant-powered meals paired with simple habit strategies that make the healthy choice the easy choice. It's not about fighting your body, it's about feeding your body in a way that is aligned and sustainable and naturally gets rid of hunger cues and naturally gets rid of cravings, and it naturally helps you stay in a calorie deficit long term. Okay. I knew this is going to be a long one today. Thanks for sticking with me, but I thought, why not? Let's just dive right into it. Okay, so how can we, depending on where you're at, like everyone is starting from a different position here. So I want you to just look at where you are starting from, and then you can make some refinements from there. But here are a few ways that you can, look at what you're doing and make some changes. So the first thing you can do is maybe do some cleanup of your food environment. Remember where I said our environment is one of the biggest contributors to our weight, and certainly the world out there, right? With the advertising, with the billboards, with the restaurants everywhere, with the food in every freaking store. Food is everywhere out there, right? So if your home environment is not set up for your success, you've got no hope in hell out there. So make sure that your food environment is supporting your goals. That makes the easy choice, the healthy choice, or the fat loss choice, the easy choice, okay? So setting up your kitchen with lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, those low calorie dense foods, have them high in volume, and it'll just make eating those foods the easy choice. Okay, it's like the effortless opt-in. Okay, so our environment beats willpower every time. So make sure your environment is set up to support you. Use the energy density scale and build your meals around those low energy dense foods. If you get my guide, it will have the plant powered plate, and I'll have my acronym plants on there that will just show you what to focus on and how to structure that plate without obsession. I don't want you to get obsessed. But if you use the calorie density scale and just go, oh, how can I get some more of these low calorie dense foods in here, and use the plate building, that can help you start to make some progress early on. The next one is body awareness. So no scales needed. You just want to learn to recognize your hunger and your own fullness cues. You want to eat to make sure that you fill your body, you are activating the stretch receptors, not to the point of overstuffing and impacting your digestion. This can be adding way more calories to your body as well. So you want to make sure that you're not just cleaning the plate because that's what your mother told you to do. Many of us heard those messages as kids, didn't we? So we want to build some awareness around how much food is right for our body. Where do we feel that sense of stretch in our stomach? Where does that turn off those hunger drives? Once you know how much food that is for your body, then you can, you've got a better idea of how much a portion size is for you. And then you can better control the energy density of what goes into that plate. And you also want to use habit over willpower. This is where, some really important habits that you can get into are pre-deciding what you're going to eat, making decisions in advance, and having a solid planning and prepping routine as well that makes sure that you are taking care of your needs in future. Think about the version of you who's doing the planning and the prepping. She's taking care of the version of you who's tired and exhausted at the end of the day and can't be bothered. Or you're taking care of that version of you who's emotional and cranky and just wants to go get takeout, right? So you're taking care, you at your best is taking care of you at your worst. Also, other healthy habits that get you into that calorie deficit as well. Sleep, guard your sleep, because dysregulated sleep plays havoc with those hunger and fullness cues and hormones. Stay well hydrated, because dehydration feels like hunger, and you'll just naturally eat more food. You're going to naturally eat more food if you are not sleeping and if you're dehydrated. So it's not just about the what you eat, but also some of these other lifestyle habits. And you want to make sure that you are exercising, strength training, but that's not your primary driver, right? It's about the calories in. That's where we have the power. Okay, so this is not about morality. It's not about perfection. What we want to do is engineer your world so that the right amount of food into your body becomes the norm, becomes easy for you. Right, I see there's a lot of comments rolling through here. Let me just go back and have a look at some of these. Thank you for being here. Hunger is such a beast. Yes. So Susie, I hope that question on fat answered your question. Catherine, yes, I'll get the weight loss guide. It's kind of true though. LOL. I haven't ate anything but veggies, fruit, and plant-based meats. I miss shrimp, cakes, and junk. LOL. I'm almost 50 days in, but I want something super tasty. Yeah, right. Yeah, we want tasty. So Danielle, if you've been making your food a bit too bland, a bit too boring, then that can be why your brain is wanting some of that ultra, or no, that I'm not going to say ultra processed, but yes, ultra processed, but also the flavors. There's also a thing about our brain where it wants familiarity and comfort as well. Our subconscious mind wants the familiar. It doesn't like change. It wants, when we're doing things that are very familiar to us, including the foods that we eat and the flavors that we get from it, the enjoyment we get from it, when our brain doesn't get that, it thinks you're going to die. Not your conscious mind, your unconscious mind. So make sure that, so that you do make your meals tasty. Yes. And you know what? The food industry has got us hooked. let's just say that food addiction is a real thing too. And don't worry, I've definitely had my struggles. Like I ate a whole bag of icing sugar once, not in one go. But yes, that icing sugar was not used to ice any cakes, let's just say. Yeah, and I've also, had binging episodes on chips and chocolate, not as a coach, because the strategies that I use with my clients, I used for myself, got myself off those foods. But yes, food addiction is very real. Those food companies have us by the kahunas. And so, this is where we need to make sure that we are making the intentional decisions using our smart human brain to steer clear of those foods if they are traps for us and we can't resist them. Jasmine says hunger is such a beast. It is. Yes, this is why we're not programmed to move through hunger. We're not programmed to avoid hunger. We are programmed to feed hunger. It's like trying to ignore your bladder going to the bathroom. You would cause yourself problems if you didn't relieve yourself when you needed to. It's a normal biological signal. It's a hormone going, hey, brain, can you tell the other parts of the body to go get food? We need some energy. Don't ignore it. Totally been there with shoes, Lisa. Yeah, right. Oh my God, I've got a whole boot. Like I've got a big bag of shoes that I'm giving away in the boot of my car. I just went and did a final hiff. It's like, no, you are going. Help me do that then, because I don't think I want to be plant-based my whole life. I'm mainly trying to lose weight for my wedding in March. Okay, yeah, Danielle. So if you are just doing something to get to a goal, well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get to that wedding and then all your old habits are going to come back, and all that weight that you've lost, oh my God, that's going to come back, because now our body and our weight is a reflection of our habits and the amount of calories we're taking in on a daily basis. So yeah, so happy to have a chat to you about that. Jazz, love how filled with joy and passion. I know, I love it. You know what? It's been a game changer for me. Eating this way is absolutely a game changer, because I struggled with my weight. Mostly in my 20s, I was at my highest then, but through my 30s, I thought that calorie counting and exercise were the way to try and get to my goals. But I was just not. It was such a struggle. I had to work so hard, put in so much concentrated effort, and I never really felt like I could get to where I wanted to be and where I feel like at best in my body. And so when I found this way of eating, and then I went back and did all the research as to why and how, so that I could teach other people, it just suddenly started to come, like it's just suddenly, it all made sense. And I was doing it for my health, because I'd been through skin cancer, and I wanted to make sure that my body was in the best position so that I wasn't going to get a recurrence of the skin cancer or have it metastasize, because when that stuff comes back, it's nasty. And so so finding this way of eating, it was about my health. And yeah, like I felt like the fat was just melting off me. It's like, whoa, what just happened? What happened to my body? And at the same time, I also released a whole heap of symptoms. My digestion got better, brain fog disappeared, sinus, like lifelong sinus problems gone, teenage skin problems that I'd been having, like breakouts since I'd been having since I was a teenager, gone. Odds and sods, little rashes all over my body, gone, right? It just felt like everything in my body got so much better. So for me, yeah, it was about a health drive, but it also helped me lose the weight that I wanted to lose. Lisa, yes. Your taste buds will change, yes. And Margaret, yes, veggies start to taste a little sweet, and fruit is like candy. Oh, fruit. I know, right? It's not that it's not good, I just feel limited. Steaming, yeah, okay, so I'm only steaming veggies or salads, no variety, because I haven't learned. Yeah, okay, so you've made a really good start. Now we want to start refining your habits and teaching you new skills, Danielle. And even if I don't cook, I stop and grab something that's nearly impossible. Yeah, so this is where having a habit that sets you up for success, or taking food with you, or knowing how much food knowing what types of food you can get when you're out and where to go for food, or having some guidelines for yourself when you do eat out. So for me, for example, I eat vegan when I'm out. I don't necessarily worry about the oils or white flours or things like that. I just make sure it's vegan, and I make sure that it's relatively healthy too. Like I'm not eating fried stuff. I'm not going necessarily for like burgers and things like that. I want to make sure that it's a healthy meal and as much as possible with lots of vegetables. So you can give yourself some guidelines around that, Danielle, as well. So, oh yes, and Margaret's so yeah, looking at Monkey and Me, and Shane and Simple as well for great recipes too. Yeah. Broccoli Mom. Yep. I've got tons of recipes as well. There's tons of recipes in recipe posts in the group here as well, if you just look under the guides section. And I've actually done a few videos for you as well, cooking a few foods. Yes, and Lisa, I'm so happy with my success. Lisa, by the way, is 60 pounds down, guys, 62 pounds down. She's fully reversed her type 2 diabetes, lowered her blood pressure. She has a total legend, and I posted about her in the group just recently. So listen to what she says. It is worth it. Yes, yeah, not going to ruin the progress with quick, pleasurable experiences. I say eating this way is like having an affair. If you've got a partner and you have an affair, it's a quick burst of pleasure that leaves you feeling terrible afterwards. So, what we're doing is nourishing our relationship, but I say it is nourishing our relationship with our food, with our body, with ourselves, and really honoring ourselves as we would a relationship. So, Danielle, you're getting married, so think about it that way. When you cheat on your healthy way of eating, it's like cheating on your partner. You don't want to do that. It's just not worth it. All right, team. If you don't have any more questions, we're going to wrap that one up here today. I knew that was going to be a fairly long masterclass for us today. I thank you so, so, so much for being here. And if any of you would like to be oh, yes. If any of you would like my weight loss guide, please make sure that you either message me or drop a note in the comments and I will get that to you. It talks all about calorie density, gives you a calorie density scale, gives you a plate, how to build your plate that can help you effortlessly lose weight without needing to overthink it. It talks about the habits of water and sleep and movement, as well as stress management. So these are the basic tools that I use with my clients to help them lose their weight for good. And I'm also going to be launching my next weight loss challenge in October. So if you would like to join that weight loss challenge and come and work with me in a small group setting over 5 days, where I help you with the foundations of fat loss and what you need to focus on so that you can be consistent long-term and achieve those results, then this training is for you. Ideally, I'd like to get some new faces into it this time because, some of my previous attendees have lost. One last time she messaged me, she told me she'd lost about 38 pounds, 40 pounds. And another one lost 10 kilos over a couple of months. So, coming to these workshops can really help shift the needle for you, get you into action mode, really help you understand the foundations of fat loss and help you succeed. So thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Lisa. Danielle, thanks, everybody. And if I've missed anybody, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for watching today. And we'll see you back next week for our next episode. Okay, ciao, bye.